Good day, ladies and gentlemen. It is November of 2020. This rather trying year is almost at its end, although it, at least looking at the news, looks like it's not going to get any better. But we're not going to focus on what's happening everywhere else. Instead, we need to take a closer look at ourselves. Because while the mass may be there to bewitch us and beguile us and cause us many problems, the individual is what makes up the mass, and the individual has always been more important than the mass. Now, I asked myself a question when I was really depressed these past couple of months, and I only really came upon a good answer today. And what that question was, if I were quantum leaped back to 2007 when I was 18, what would I tell myself of the future? There have been many difficulties throughout the years, and so I can't say the future was 100% bright, but nor can I say it was 100% dark either. You see, in life, there will always be trials and tribulations, but you must keep focused on yourself above all else. In my lifetime, I have had friends that I've been closer to than anyone else, and I've had them go. And I've had them become less relevant year after year, and finally they are no longer a part of my life in any way, shape, or form. They're merely just memories in an ocean of years. This is depressing, but I'll always have the good memories. I'll always be able to remember games of sea battle and things of that nature. But I'm able to move on from that, because I am still myself. While you may face many losses throughout your life, you will always be you if you work at it hard enough. One of the things that always depresses me about MGTOWs and generally people who take the proverbial black pill where everything is gloom and doom is that they've lost themselves in many respects. I have had many reasons to be a very bitter and curmudgeonly asshole. I could very well be that, and yet I am not. I have been able to maintain myself. I've been able to maintain my values. I have been able to maintain me. 18-year-old me would not be surprised at 31-year-old me. If anything, you'd think he probably thought I got weak, became some kind of a pussy, because I'm way more positive now than I was back then. So it's actually kind of funny how that works. But I would still be recognizable to my 18-year-old self. Because even though I have lost friends that I considered the best friend forever, I still know that there is a true best friend forever out there. I know there is a true love out there waiting to be found. I haven't given up on that concept. I haven't become bitter to that concept. But nor does the loss of people that I thought would be best friends forever or true loves and things of that nature, it got me down to the point where I can't be myself. And that is something you've got to focus on, ladies and gentlemen. There will always be difficulties. There will always be trials and tribulations. But so long as you can stay true to yourself, so long as you, at the very least, outside of everything else, are still there, that is all that matters, because then there is hope for the future. I'm going to talk a little bit about relationships today. I see a lot of MGTOW stuff for some reason in my YouTube feed. I'm not really sure why that is, because I certainly don't go looking for it, that's for sure. But I see that, and it's like, when you cut yourself off from relationships, when you basically say that, you don't want to be attached to someone, you're really missing out on one of the in my opinion, the single greatest aspect of the human experience. Being in a relationship is, in my mind, the most enriching experience you can possibly have. Even though I've had negative relationships. In fact, most of them have been negative, and that's why I'm still by myself to this day. I don't let that make me lose hope. I don't lose that mindset just because someone else did something to me. And that's what you have to focus on. Just because someone else is an asshole doesn't mean you have to be. Just because one person or two people or more can do these things to you does not mean they're all going to. When you just lump, women, there's a common thing these days with Western women are bad. I'm sure there's probably a good number that are, and they primarily attend college campuses. But there's probably a good many that aren't. In fact, I've known several. Now, while that hasn't actually led to a long-term lasting relationship, they still weren't as bad as what everyone makes them out to be. The fact is, there's going to be good and bad people in your life. don't let the bad people ruin yourself for the good people. But also, don't let bad people control you after they've left your life. That's something that's very important. That's one of the other reasons why I feel so bad for the MGTOWs, is their bad relationships still control them, and control them to the point where they have eschewed all romantic interactions with other people. And that is sad. I do not let my losses throughout life control me. I don't need these people in my life. I would certainly have liked them to stay around a lot longer, but I don't need them. It's not a deep, abiding need. Instead, it's like, well, this was a great relationship, or this was a great friendship. It's over now. I can appreciate for what it was when it was around, but now I can move on and seek more relationships, ones that may in fact be better than that relationship ever could have been. As I always say, ladies and gentlemen, you have to always keep in mind, life is only as good as you make it. That's one of those things where people suffer from ennui and like, do I matter in the universe? Well, in the grand scheme of things, who's to say you don't matter? People just seem to live for what other people say about them. For all I know, I matter to the universe. No one said it, but no one didn't say it either. How do I know? Just because people say, oh, we don't matter in the grand scheme of anything, how do you know that? Who's saying that? Why are they saying it? Why should I care that somebody said that? At the end of the day, you, the individual, matter, and keeping yourself through all the difficulties that happen in life is the most important thing you can do. Because at the end of the day, despite everything that may happen, you will still be there, and it will be incumbent upon you to maintain the things that you love and care about. And I'm not talking about stuff. I'm talking about your values. I'm talking about the things that matter the most to you. To me, relationships matter the most to me. Yeah, I've had some bad ones, but you know what? I am not going to lose my desire to be with someone I love and care about. When I think of sitting here at this computer playing Donkey Kong with a significant other, that still makes me smile inside. Just because I've had some negative relationships does not sour me to that concept. And when I say Donkey Kong, I mean Donkey Kong Country. It's one of those things that I can maintain that desire even after something bad happened. And that's what you have to do. So yeah, keep yourself. Also, I want to mention a book that's really crappy, but I really like one of the messages that was in it. It was the Star Trek Deep Space Nine Millennium Trilogy. Absolutely awful, horrible trilogy. The writing is just so pedestrian, and it takes forever for anything to happen. But there's actually two good moments. One of which is irrelevant to what I'm talking about, but the one that is relevant is Quark is in his bar, and he's looking at a painting. I'm not sure if it's actually in the show. I haven't actually tried to look for it in the show, but if it is, it's a painting that's kind of like abstract, and it's supposed to be a Tholian admiral. And Quark is in the bar, he's drinking with Rom, and he's talking like, you know, all this stuff has changed, but the admiral's still there, and I'm still there. And I think to myself, you know, so much stuff has changed since 2007, but you know what? I'm still here. Not only in body and spirit and mind, but all the little things that make John Theophilus Lotz, John Theophilus Lotz. I am still here, and that is important. And now on, for those who want to know what the other scene is, so there's some time crap going on. Worf and some of the crew from the Defiant get sent into an alternate future where the Federation is kind of evil. The Bajorans are evil as well, and there's some Bajoran crew members with Worf, and the evil Federation is like, alright, we'll let you live, but you have to space the Bajorans. And Worf and all the Starfleet officers say, we would never do that. We would rather die with the Bajorans than do that. And the Bajorans are like, hey, you know, we'll die. You don't need to die too. And they say no. The Starfleet officers, along with Worf, would rather have died than condemn someone to death. And that is the essence of Star Trek. Because that is what a real Starfleet officer would do. Hell, I would do that. I would never ask someone to do something that I myself would not be willing to do. And that can be seen as painfully idealistic, but you know what? I don't give a fuck. All right, so what about politics? What's going on in the United States? Utter insanity. And for later news, water wet. Basically, at the end of 2020, we're seeing the culmination of decades of political corruption, decades of ideological insanity, and I don't know where it ends. I sincerely hope we all meet in 2021, the search for more money. My 2 cents on it is these people are acting in exactly the way you'd expect. Just be patient and relax, I guess is the best way to put it. There's a lot of stuff that we can't really do or change, so just don't let it give you an ulcer, let's put it that way. And now for something way more positive. A future firearm review. Because, ladies and gentlemen, I did indeed find something so awesome at the local gun shop just a week ago. Bum, 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 bum. Oh yeah, lads and lasses. That is a Browning high power, specifically an Argentinian high power. To be perfectly frank, I didn't even know Argentina. I know it's pronounced Argentina before anyone comments, but Argentina sounds funnier. I did not know that Argentina actually even manufactured high powers. And you see that high gloss blue? That's an example of not just a hell of a good deal, not just a damn good deal, but a fucking good deal. It's that important. This good deal is one of those things where local gun shops can be overpriced, but sometimes they'll sell something like this for not necessarily a steal. I mean, I definitely did pay money for this, but I wasn't ripped off or gouged. So what we have here, well, actually, I'm going to talk more about the Browning high power in the actual Browning high power first shots. But a Browning high power is essentially a double stack single action 9mm handgun. It's still used by a number of militaries in the world despite seeming a bit obsolete next to Glocks and things of that nature, but it's a pretty high quality handgun. This was Browning's last design. Although I don't know what the proportion is. John Moses Browning worked on this alongside his protege Dieudonné Sauvé. I don't know how much of what the actual split is, but basically this is mostly Browning's last design. So it's a pretty high quality handgun. It does indeed have a mag drop safety. I'll explain more about that later, but this is basically somebody's souped up carry gun. This has a high gloss blued finish. Originally this would have had a matte blue. It's had really cool, fancy, multicolored wood grips. It's got a trigger job. It's a beautiful, beautiful pistol. And it's one of those things where I'm so glad I found it, because it is the greatest pistol in my collection, and it shoots fucking good too. Not just damn good, not just pretty good, but fucking good. Basically, I hyped myself up for a Browning high power since age 12, actually. It took me till age 31 to get it, but like with so many things in life, all good things come to those who wait, even if you don't want to wait. So yeah, can't wait to talk about this thing. It's awesome. Alright, so what are we talking about in terms of reviews? Well, I've worked a great deal on Rage, but I just don't have that much time to devote to it. The Rage review is actually going to be January's review, simply because, and yes, I'm scratching my back in the middle of the video, the Rage review is actually being postponed until January, because that is a video that's going to take a lot of time, and Alien Isolation took a lot out of me. Essentially, to get Alien Isolation done, I had to work 2 months on it, and we're talking like I got to work 10-hour days at work, and then I worked a couple hours at night on just that video, pretty much to the exclusion of everything but exercising. So I don't really want to work on a video that's going to take that much time, because I would like some free time to, kick back and relax a little bit. So Rage is being postponed to January, but the December review is going to be a PlayStation 1 game, which should be substantially easier. No, watch, it's harder. It should be substantially easier to do, and that game is going to be Armageddon or Apocalypse. I forget the exact name. I probably should have looked it up before I did the video, but what can you do? It is a game that was done by the guys who would later do Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Essentially, it's what's called a run-and-gun game. Now, that might sound like, oh, everyone knows what a run and gun game is. Yeah, but this is weird. It's a 3D run and gun. I thought it was just a third-person shooter, but technically it's a run and gun game. You literally just run and gun. It is a unsung gem for the PlayStation 1. The reason why it's even remotely as known as it is, and it's not really that well known or known at all, really, is because Bruce Willis is the main character. It is a 3D polygon version of Bruce Willis, and he even spouts Bruce Willis lines. I just call it the Bruce Willis game. It is really, really good. Like, it is extremely fun. I'm not going to say fucking fun, but it's extremely fun. I mean, it's got a really weird control scheme, too, where you shoot different directions with the square, circle, triangle, box button. It's the weirdest thing ever, but once you get used to it, it's a lot of fun. I'm going to do that for December because it should be a lot easier. Sadly, there's not going to be a review for November. Just did not have the time. I devoted most of my time to Rage, but that game is a lot longer than I thought it was going to be. It's a game that I had heard back in 2011 when it came out that it was really, really short, like criminally short, but there's a lot of content in that game. I'll give you my base review for Rage right now. It is definitely a game that deserves a look. In fact, I'll just straight up say it. If you can get it for $5 during the Steam Christmas sale, do so. Now, you might not like it when you first start playing it. You might wait until my review to start playing it because it is very rough to get through that first hour. That first hour is some of the dullest gameplay I've ever played in an id Software game, but it is fun once you get past that first hour. Once you get away from John Goodman, it's a good game. It is a damn good game. The shooting is actually fun. The levels start getting a lot better. The adventure aspect works. It's not... Here's the thing. It feels like Fallout made by id. So they cut a lot of the crap from Fallout, but you kind of have a Fallout-ish universe. You have a RPG-ish universe, and somehow, in my opinion at least, it works. It's an RPG-ish kind of game, and then you got the racing. The racing does not necessarily feel tacked on and is actually fun. Basically, I get the feeling that there were three different priorities in this game. There was the first-person shooting, the racing, and RPG. And somehow id Software pulled it off. Now, it's not a very good RPG. It's not a very good racing game. It's not... Actually, once you get past the first hour of the game, the first-person shooting gets to be about as good as a low-tier id Software game would be. It's certainly no Quake 2, Quake 1, Doom, or anything like that, but it's definitely above average for a first-person shooter. The weapons are fun. The wing sticks, they grow on you, and the enemies are varied. And the wing sticks actually come in handy later in the game. So it's a game that does grow on you to a degree, and it is fun if you give it a chance. And no one did, and I completely understand why no one did. I didn't give it a chance when I tried to play it back then, mainly because it ran like shit. What you have with Rage is it's a game that looks like shit, it runs like shit, and the first hour it plays like shit. And so everybody got into it, played it for a few minutes, realized this is shit, and gave up on it. The only reason I know different is because I wanted to play the whole game, and to basically spend 30 minutes shitting on it why this is the worst id Software game ever made. However, once I got past that first hour, it's like, this is actually really good. And I started having more fun. And I had more fun. And it's like, okay, this is a good game. It is by far the worst id Software game. But when you have titans like Doom, Quake 2, and then especially now in 2020, where you've got Doom Eternal and Doom 2016 and all that, it really is the bottom of the barrel for id Software games. But that's still pretty high tier in and of itself. Let's see. We're not going to be doing any book reviews. Don't have time. Going to be doing maybe 2 first shots if I have the time. It's just, you want to have money to have a fancy microphone, fancy camera, and all that. You got to work. So yeah, it's just one of those things. But I'm going to keep doing the live streams every week. I was going to do a live stream the day I'm recording this, but I was too busy today. So yeah, still gonna be doing the live streams. I am gonna be live streaming, so everyone can get hyped for this. I am going to finally live stream that one game that has 30,000 views, which may not seem like a lot, but is a lot for me. And that game is Aliens Infestation. In fact, I'm going to do a full retrospective of that in 2021. I don't care how little time I may have next year, that review is getting done. Or that retrospective is getting done. Because I want to talk about the whole game and not just 10 minutes of it like I did in the review. Because Aliens Infestation, it's kind of funny looking back on Aliens Infestation. You know, I thought that was just like a prelude, a taste for how good Aliens Colonial Marines would be. And Colonial Marines was shit! But Aliens Infestation, absolutely amazing. And the thing about Aliens Infestation is that is a masterpiece in its own right, really. And I need to do a retrospective where I draw attention to that fact, because it is a masterpiece game. It is the best Aliens game, as in pure Aliens time period game, ever. And probably will be the best ever. Actually, speaking of aliens, and speaking of the Alien universe, there is a comic series based upon the original screenplay for Alien, and it's actually not that bad. It's an interesting comic. It's not finished yet, but I've read most of the issues. Art's pretty good. Story's basically Alien, but not quite as good. It definitely has a lot. Alien, if that is following the original screenplay pretty closely, has a lot of Prometheus vibes to it, and I'm glad those were cut out of the original Alien film, because I like the more mysterious aspect of Alien. And speaking of the eventual Aliens Infestation review, I went ahead and picked up a controller, not necessarily just to play that game, but also to play retro games, and that is the 8-bit Dough controller. This was actually recommended to me by a friend. This is actually a pretty high-quality little controller, and the prices have gone down to a degree. You can get these on Best Buy right now for about $25, and if you don't have giant hands like me, this would be worth it. It is a very well done controller. The D-pad is absolutely amazing. However, it's just a little too small, and I find these trigger buttons here digging into my fingers. So I'm definitely not going to send it back, but it's not quite as good as I'd hoped. And I definitely do intend to use this, though, with some retro games like Aliens Infestation. What's kind of funny, though, is when it comes to controllers, yeah, we're going to do controller jamboree right now. The best controller, in my opinion, that I've used, it's not as good as a controller with a motor or anything like that, but the one that I happen to like the most to play retro games on is this cheapo Logitech controller. The D-pad, while not amazing, is perfectly adequate, and I like the mode button on here that allows you to take the D-pad and put it on one of the sticks. Saves a lot of config time on certain games. Alright, how long have we been going? 25 minutes. Is that 25 or 23? 23 minutes. Alright, let's see. Let's wrap it up with books, ladies and gentlemen. I got 2 book recommendations for this month. The novel Killer by David Drake. Might not have a very original title, but it is still Alpha Prime. I hadn't read it in about 15 years by this point. Just got completely sucked into it. And the easiest way to describe it is 25% different alien set in ancient Rome. The creature in the book is, well, a killer. And it doesn't look like a xenomorph. In fact, it's described as looking almost human-like with a lot of blue scales. But it acts like a xenomorph. It reproduces more or less like a xenomorph. And it basically combines the xenomorph warrior form with a queen, because it has the intelligence of a queen. So you've got, the killer running around, although in the book it's called a Sauropithecus, or a file. And he's running around killing everybody in Rome, and a Roman dude, whose name I don't remember, Flavor Flavius, is basically trying to hunt him down, and there's another alien that shows up and trying to hunt down the Sauropithecus, and it's really, really good. One thing that kind of annoys me, though, is there. I hate it when reviews are printed in the book themselves. And I actually got an e-form of this, so in the e-form, there's little reviews in there, and it's like, I don't really care. It's like, let me make my own opinion of the book. But one of the reviews is Predator meets Gladiator. Now, the Flavian Amphitheater, goddammit, Flavian Amphitheater, there we go, does show up in the book, but the action does not take place in there. And while Roman dude, Flavor Flavius, was a former gladiator, he does not fight the Sauropithecus in the Flavian Amphitheater as a gladiator. And the Sauropithecus is nothing like the Predator. I don't really know where they get that. They must not have actually heard of Alien. But anyway, second book recommendation is Brunner, the Bounty Hunter, by, I believe, C.L. Warner. I could be wrong about that, but whatever. Just look up Brunner, the Bounty Hunter. Basically think Man with No Name in the Warhammer Fantasy universe. It's it's an omnibus that has the first two books, which are books of short stories, and one full novel. And the little adventures that Brunner goes on is pretty bloody awesome. It reminds me a bit. Now, this took place. Now, the book came out way before Mandalorian, but what Mandalorian kind of should be. Basically, Brunner is based upon the Man with No Name, but he kind of looks like Boba Fett because he's got a suit of armor and he's got all kinds of guns and crossbows and shit. But he takes a mission, and usually that mission is him trying to kill somebody, but then he ends up saving a bunch of people inadvertently or helping out in some way. His dialogue, I can basically hear Clint Eastwood's voice whenever he says anything. It's really bloody good. I haven't read Brunner the Bounty Hunter in about 5 years, and I'm just sucked in yet again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I have been going on for 26 minutes. I'm starting to get a bit of a headache, a little bit thirsty. And so, I'm going to wish you good Browning Eye Power. And I'm going to wish you good Bruce Willis game, whatever makes you happy. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you can, please consider supporting me on Patreon so that I can continue bringing you this great content.